Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kurt White. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you to Travis and everybody at Unland for giving me the opportunity. Technically, there's a microphone up here, but I'm going to kind of be between there, so my voice, I can project real well, so hopefully that shouldn't be an issue. As far as the other thing that, as far as whether you can see me or not, I'm sorry, this is as good as it gets. I'm not going to be any taller, and I welcome the opportunity. Since you mentioned if you don't like something I'm saying, heave away. You can throw the muffin, because at my height, some of you taller people out there, you're going to get hit in the back of the head anyway. There's no way it's going to reach all the way up here, so toss away. I want to start out by having you imagine, or just kind of bear with me and share with you a story. I'm going to guess that I was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 years old, and my hair was getting a little bit shaggy, because I had quite a bit more back then. And my mother decided she loaded me up, and we headed off in the back of the station wagon into the one and only barber shop in town in the Wyoming, Illinois, which is a small community where I had grown up. As my mom was carrying me through the door, she looked around, and she was relatively relieved to see that the wait should be pretty short. There was a large, dark-haired gentleman with this real deep voice, and Mom had learned recently that he was the local Ford dealer in town, and he invited Mom and I to join him on this huge, pea green, vinyl upholstered waiting couch. So Mom obliged him and went ahead and sat me down in between the two of them. And can y'all hear me okay? Okay. She sat me down in between the two of them, and I'm not kidding you. The bottoms of my feet were still 2 years of growing up just away from reaching the edge of that couch. I knew that there was going to be a bit of a wait, and so I asked my mom if she wouldn't mind checking to see if there was any age-appropriate reading material for me hanging on this large, overstuffed magazine rack that was hanging on the wall. Fortunately for me, there were still a few Dick and Jane books available. I can tell how the age of the crowd by who knows Dick and Jane. She grabbed a few of them and she laid them on my lap, and I was all excited to see Dick jump and watch Jane run. And in my haste, I was trying to flip open the cover of that book, and I was so excited, I flipped the cover, and unfortunately it slid off my lap, only to sit and teeter back and forth on the edge of that couch, and ultimately it fell onto the floor. Well, my new Ford dealer friend that was sitting next to me, he immediately reached over to retrieve my reading material. At the same time, my mom stopped him, and she said, "Oh no, he dropped it. He can pick it up." And myself, I'd already slouched down into that huge couch, and I began my own journey towards the edge, which I too found myself teetering on, ultimately to plummet to the floor. But thankfully I landed safely on my bottom, and once on the floor I scooped up the book and I put the corner of it in my mouth, and when I bit down I was careful not to bite down too hard, because I hate leaving those bite marks for future readers. But once I got the book safely secure, I thrust myself into the front of that couch and pushed and squirmed and wriggled, and after several attempts at breaking my neck, I once again found myself teetering on the edge of that couch. But this time I dug my heels into the front and moved my rear end back and forth, and finally, once again, I found myself resting on the back of that couch. Now, this time, much slower and more carefully, I lifted open the cover of the book, and to my delight, I was able to see Dick jump and watch Jane run. But once Dick and Jane got to wherever it was they were going in the story, it was over. So I closed the cover of the book, and it was at that point that I decided I looked up at my new Ford dealer friend, and with my huge, gorgeous, dark brown toddler eyes, I asked him, I said, "You like books?" I'm sharing this story with you this morning because I feel that it's a great example of how my upbringing kind of shaped the way that I've approached many of the obstacles that I've faced in life. My name is Kurt P. White, and I'm here to talk to you about living life to the fullest and how I feel I've managed to do just that as a handy-capable person. What's living life to the fullest? It's utilizing our God-given time and talents to the best of our abilities. When I'm out giving the full presentation, the first thing I talk about to people is making a commitment to overcome life's obstacles. And today I want to share with you how living a handy-capable life has allowed me to conquer most of life's challenges. And hopefully by the end, you should all be fully aware that I'm not afraid to try just about anything. As far as making the commitment to overcome life's obstacles, personally, I was born with my disabilities, so I've never known any differently. My friends and family, especially my parents, they all treated me just like everybody else. They supported and they encouraged me to be independent. Just like in my story, Mom could have just as easily reached right over and picked up the book for me. Or she could have just not said anything and allowed my new Ford dealer friend to pick it up. But she says, "No, he dropped it. He can pick it up." And as for myself, I had already started my own journey towards the edge of the couch because I was determined to pick up the book by myself. I want to share with you one more example and just kind of solidify what my parents' commitment was to me growing up. I'm going to share with you a couple of gifts that I received when I was growing up, gifts that I received from Santa Claus. Seriously? The heck am I going to do with a Rubik's Cube? Practice my telekinesis? Yeah, and the clapper, I was able to figure out how to use it a little bit, but the more that I used it, the bigger the bruise got on my forehead. So yeah, that's true story. I'm also forever grateful to the doctors and nurses from the Shrine Hospital in Oak Park, Illinois, where I spent many years growing up. Honestly, I don't recall how many surgeries that I had when I was a child, but the one thing that I am well aware of is if it wouldn't have been for their care, there's no way that I would be nearly as mobile and as independent as I am today, so that I owe them quite a bit. I was able to figure out early on and make a commitment to do just about anything that I set my mind to. And especially I was able to figure out ways to do things that I love to do. And I got a huge boost to my independence when I was able to get my driver's license when I turned 16. And mind you, I want to share that I only missed one question on my driver's test, and it was on the written portion. The question was pretty easy. It just asked, well, what's the proper hand position on the steering wheel? Which I confidently answered 10. Yeah, it was the only one that I missed. I was able to make a commitment early on to believe that I was going to be able to achieve just about anything that I set my mind to. And I've effectively, like to say, I've been able to remove the word can't from my vocabulary. And my crowning achievement so far, and I'm sure will be for the rest of my life, is I'm passionate about being a part of and helping raise a family. Got a few pictures here to show you, and in case it's not obvious to you, we love spending time together in the great outdoors. Over the years, I learned and enjoyed skiing, both the snow and the water variety. I learned how to swim and dive. And if there's anybody out there that has not dove before, the bottom of the pool is really far down. Fishing has always been a huge part of my life, ever since I wasn't much bigger than a keeper myself. And I've passed along my love of fishing to my youngest son, Preston, and he and I thoroughly enjoy volunteering at the Hooked On Fishing Park here in East Peoria, which unfortunately today is underwater. So please share some prayers with me, and hopefully we can get that cleaned up as soon as possible. Now, playing golf has been a huge part of my life also, and especially it's been good for me to be able to fuel my competitive nature. I was going to share with you that I'll play anywhere, but especially on a public course around here, I'll maybe show up to the course by myself, and therefore I've not met the other players, and in order to complete a foursome, they'll go ahead and put me with some guys that maybe I haven't met before. I recall one day going up, and we're standing on the first tee and doing the obligatory introductions and courteous small talk and stuff, and the fella come up to me and he asked me, he goes, "Well, what's your handicap?" As I contemplated my response, I was careful. I stood on the tee and I looked all around, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing his seeing eye dog anywhere. But I wasn't. And I've even had people ask me over the years, says, "Well, you play golf left or right-handed?" And I finally just gotten to the point now where I've told people, well, you know, I tried right-handed one time, but I just never could get a good grip on it. But no, golf has been great for me. I actually joined the National Amputee Golfers Association, and I've played in several tournaments over the years, mostly here in the Midwest. Had a great time. They're a great group of people. And I'm happy to share with you that a few years ago now, I got second place in my division at the Midwest Regional Championships up in Chicago. Now, there's plenty of things that I enjoy doing indoors. I'm not outside all the time. And what it boils down to basically is I just enjoy entertaining people. And if you've been out and about, my washboard and I have joined several local bands here in the area. And I'm fortunate I know at least two people in here are going to know Comatose Catfish is one of them that I've joined many times on stage. And I even had the opportunity and the honor to join the band on stage during a local production here up at Metamora Fields. As a matter of fact, as far as entertaining people, I'm even contemplating stand-up comedy and giving it a try, which I think leads into this picture pretty well. Keep in mind that I said I'm willing to give just about anything a try, and I remember this day fondly. It was Halloween, and the whole day at work, I was Katrina instead of Kurt. Stayed in character the whole bit. It was awesome. I do my best to participate in any sporting activity that I was able to play, and it just ended up being that volleyball ended up being one of my favorites. As I was putting this slide presentation together, there was a story that I wanted to share with all of you regarding the girl in this picture. I'm sure it won't be a surprise to you that I happen to be the shortest guy in high school. Well, just so happens that the girl that I fell in love with in high school was the tallest girl in high school. It was a match made in heaven. But anyway, what I wanted to share with you was when we would go to all the high school dances, she would make a point of getting an appropriate length dress that would allow her to wear her volleyball knee pads, and she would dance all night with me on her knees. So yeah, that was huge and something that I will always remember her for. I really enjoy shooting pool. Got fairly good at it, spent a lot of my college class time at the union. I claim to be somewhat of a pool shark, but I'll only claim that after I watch you play a few games. But no, I thoroughly enjoy it. I've played in several tournaments here in the area. And yes, believe it or not, a couple of years ago, I decided to go ahead and jump out of a perfectly good airplane. It was awesome. So hopefully by now it's becoming obvious to you that I haven't allowed too many things in life to slow me down. Even though my physical limitations might be easier for you to see than others, I've chosen never to use any of them as an excuse. I prefer being called handicapable instead of handicapped. Just saying that word handicapped to me suggests putting a cap on something. And I'm not about to let a word define who I am or what I'm capable of achieving. I also feel that saying handicapped automatically imposes limitations on the person, whoever you're referring to as being handicapped. And imposing limitations on others is definitely something that I encourage all of you to try not to do. Oftentimes I'll hear stuff behind me or things, people will say stuff like, poor thing, bless his heart, if they only knew. It's just amazing how well he does with the hand he's been dealt. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing with sympathy, but just be careful of your use of pity. I'll use another example of a former coworker of mine, and this is after I'd been at the bank for a while. She shared a story with me, and she recalled seeing me for the very first time when I came to the bank for my interview. I was trudging across the bank lobby and fumbling around with my attaché case, trying to keep it balanced on my lap. Had this oddly frumpy looking suit on. She's just looking at me and she's thinking to herself, she says, man, what could this guy possibly do to help us here at the bank? Well, the story that she wanted to share with me was before the year was up that year, I was actually her boss. So again, be careful of what you're assuming people's capabilities are. As I stand here before you this morning, I also want to share something with you that I recently learned from Cindy Bird. She was the teacher at a class I took called Take the Stage. She taught and she encouraged all of us to know our audience. I was excited when Travis asked me to present here this morning because he had mentioned that several of you in here are going to be business managers or team leaders, and I've met a few of you already this morning, and I feel I've got to know some of you a bit. There's no doubt that you're all passionate about empowering each other. It's one of the reasons you're here today. And you're helping all the members of your team reach their full potential. So knowing my audience this morning, it wasn't a big concern for me. But I'm also aware that as far as myself, a lot of you in here I didn't get introduced to, and so I just kind of know you from appearance. I'm excited to maybe have an opportunity to get to know all of you a little bit better, and I want to be one of the people in your life who is able to empower and encourage you to be the best that you can be. Now, although I've shared with you many of the challenges that I feel that I've overcome, I made the commitment to do that during my life. I recall I had mentioned to you earlier that my physical limitations are easier to see than others. So let me share with you the fact, and I want you to know that I also struggle with alcohol. I'm in recovery, but at times it's felt like overcoming alcohol addiction has been tougher for me than being born with only one arm. The point of sharing that with you is the fact that you wouldn't have known that about me unless I shared it with you. It wasn't as obvious as what my seemingly obstacles that are going to be the toughest for me to overcome. So as we close, I want to ask you, or allow me to ask all of you, what's your disability? Because we all have them. Things like stress, anxiety, or depression, or victims of abuse or addictions. Are you choosing to use it as an excuse? If so, I urge you to figure out ways to turn things around. Don't allow yourself to be the biggest obstacle in the way of being the best you that you can possibly be. If you too choose to live a capable life instead of capped, anything's possible. Please join me in living our lives to the fullest. Thank you.